It was the Dutch Grand Prix last weekend, in case you didn't notice. I've never seen anybody in a tuxedo vibing this hard. Max Verstappen on pole position as per. Sergio Perez down in 7th on the grid after qualifying 1.3 seconds behind him. 1.3 seconds!
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Lewis Hamilton got knocked out in Q2, hashtag Team LH intensifies. Charles Latifi fucked into the barriers as per, and Logan Sargent made it through to Q3, which was the first time in 30 years that an American has made it into the top 10 in qualifying. America intensifies.
What the fuck is a
A few moments later.
Logan Sargent, though! And Sargent finds the barriers.
R.I.P. Logan, and shout out to the Freedom Tower. So, Max Verstappen lined up on pole position and was about to piss off into the distance and win the race by 20 seconds, like he did at the last race and the race before that.
boring?
They even had some twat dressed up as a lion to hype up the crowd so they didn't fall asleep watching Max Verstappen cruise to his 9th win in a row. But guess what? We didn't need that nonce in the lion costume because instead we got rain, and it sent the race into the 4th dimension. Max Verstappen went from pole position all the way down to 11th in the first 3 laps. Osama bin Russell overtakes Lando Norris for the lead of the race and then drops down to 18th after Mercedes pulled a Ferrari strategy. Ferrari themselves pulled a Ferrari strategy. Why do they never have the tyres ready? Where could they possibly be? The reason why all of this chaos unfolded is because as the cars lined up on the grid, the track was dry, so everybody was on dry tyres, obviously. So the lights go out and everybody barrels into the first corner. Nothing serious happens, but then by the end of the first lap, it was absolutely pissing down. Half the field dived into the pit lane, including Sergio Perez. Red Bull give him the intermediate tyres, Ferrari have a nervous breakdown, Verstappen, Norris, Sigma Alonso and Osama bin Russell stay out on dry tyres. Bad move. In fact, all of these dickheads stayed out on dry tyres. So, by the end of the second lap, Sergio Perez was down in 12th, but he was going 20 seconds a lap faster. By the end of the second lap, Verstappen and Sigma Alonso come into the pits for the intermediate tyres, handing the lead of the race to Lando Norris, until Osama bin Russell jihads it down the inside and takes the lead of the race. Now look at this. In the space of half a lap, Sergio Perez goes from 7th, overtakes 6 cars, including Osama bin Russell, and takes the lead of the race. It's chaos and I like it! I am calm. So, after the opening shitstorm, the order is as follows. The Mexican Minister of Disgrace is in the lead. Second place is Guan Yu Zhou.
I love China. How can you not love China? I love China. China, China. China, China. China, China. China, 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 China.
And Max Verstappen is now right behind Pierre Gasly in 3rd.
Pig! You French pig!
But critically, for Verstappen, he was now 13 seconds behind Perez. That sounds like a lot, but this is Max Verstappen. He overtakes Pierre Gasly on lap 6, then Guan Yu Zhou on lap 7. Now he's 10 seconds behind Perez, and he starts taking 4 seconds a lap out of his lead. And then you know how it goes. Verstappen catches up to Perez, undercuts him in the pit stops when everybody switched back to dry tyres. Now he's in the lead of the race and he starts to piss off into the distance like he was going to anyway.
Boring!
But then, America invaded the barriers to sow the seeds of democracy. That brings out the safety car and bunches up the field. Now, this is the opportunity for somebody to shag it down the inside into the first corner when the race restarts. So, did anybody shag it down the inside into the first corner when the race restarted? No. Because that would have been fun. Verstappen nails the restart, gets through the first corner, nobody shags it down the inside, and he starts to piss off into the distance like he was going to anyway.
Boring!
But then, with barely 10 laps left in the race, it starts pissing down again, and that sends the race back into the 4th dimension. Everybody dives into the pit lane for intermediate tyres. Red Bull have a nervous breakdown. Sergio Perez drops it at the first corner, handing second place to Fernando Sigma Alonso. Liam Lawson unlapped himself against Max Verstappen. That's brave. Liam, you realise Nick de Vries is currently being used as a human ashtray in the back of the Red Bull garage. So once he remembered that he wants to live and not die, he gets out of the way and lets Verstappen back through. Maybe I should explain for anybody that's been living under a rock. Liam Lawson was drafted in to replace Daniel Ricciardo because Daniel Ricciardo is currently Daniel Retardo, because he broke his wrist. The point is, the Dutch Grand Prix has now fully entered the fourth dimension. Shite was kicking off left, right and centre, and just as everything was about to get interesting, China invaded the barriers to sow the seeds of communism and brings out the red flag. Thanks a lot, China.
China, 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 China now, China, China. China!
So all the cars return to the pit lane and we have to wait for over an hour to get this pig restarted. And fair enough, it was a bloody monsoon. But then it stopped raining and about half an hour went by and the track was perfectly reasonable, but they waited another 1,000 years to start the race. And I think it was Martin Brundle who made the point about why do we even have extreme wet tyres? If every time it's extremely wet, we're just going to sit and wait until it's not extremely wet to start the race. Why don't you just do what they do at Wimbledon every time it starts raining and pull a gigantic cover over the entire track? Is that not possible in Formula 1? But they're not going to do that because the FIA apparently has their own bright idea. And it's called a spray guard, and it's painfully real. The FIA is attempting to gain domination over the watery forces of nature with its ambitious spray guard project designed to allow Formula 1 races to be run in extreme wet conditions. I thought spray guard was the piece of glass they put over the all-you-can-eat buffet to stop people sneezing on the prawn toast. Prawn toast. I haven't had prawn toast in ages. I haven't had a chinky in ages. Chinky in England means Chinese cuisine, okay? That wasn't a hate crime. I love China. I don't love China. I hate the CCP. But I do love prawn toast and sweet and sour chicken balls. What was I talking about? The Dutch Grand Prix was sent into the fourth dimension twice because of the rain. And even through all of the twists and turns, all of the shite that kicked off, Max Verstappen still won the race because he is inevitable. So that makes it 9 races in a row that Verstappen has won, and he now equals the all-time record set by Sebastian Vettel in 2013. So Verstappen is on the cusp of making history. All he has to do is win the next race in Monza. However, there is something called the Monza curse. Now, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. And it goes like this. In 2019, Charles Leclerc won the Italian Grand Prix after fending off a double attack from the regime. First by Lewis Hamilton. On lap 23, Hamilton was right up Leclerc's arse. He reels him in going around the Curva Grande, pulls to the inside, they go wheel to wheel into the chicane before Hamilton is forced onto the grass and down the escape road. Hamilton complains on the radio, the FIA gives Charles Leclerc a black and white flag, and everybody now has a death grip on their cock. A few laps later, Leclerc clocks a wheel going into the first chicane and bounces across the curbs. That puts Lewis Hamilton right up his arse once again, going around the Curva Grande, which is Italian for big fucking corner. Hamilton fakes to the inside, then goes to the outside, but he's too far back and doesn't make a move. The fight continues for 8 more laps until Hamilton locks a wheel into the first chicane and sends it down the escape road. Now it's Valtteri Bottas chasing the Ferrari, but because it was Valtteri Bottas, he never even got close. So Charles Leclerc walks onto the top step of the podium and the entire nation of Italy has a Ferrari-gasm. It really was a beautiful moment. However, at the next year's Italian Grand Prix, this happened.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
So, in 2019, he wins the race after fending off the regime, and the next year, he shags it into the barriers. Coincidence? Maybe. But there's more. In 2020, Lewis Hamilton drove into the pit lane after it had been closed because of a broken down Haas. The FIA give him a 10-second stop-and-go penalty, which is one of the harshest penalties the FIA can dish out, along with forcing a driver to listen to Paul di Resta's commentary. Yes, I know it's been a year since he left. I'm still not over it. So Hamilton was taken out of contention because of a stupid mistake. Both Ferraris had their controllers disconnected, and Valtteri Bottas was being Valtteri Bottas. He barely finished 10 seconds ahead of Hamilton, who had a 10-second stop-and-go penalty. The point is, Pierre Gasly won the 2020 Italian Grand Prix after a crazy race. And then guess what happened? At the next year's Italian Grand Prix, he gets sent across the gravel and into the barriers on the first lap of the sprint race, and then in the big race on Sunday, he retires on lap 4 with damaged suspension. So in 2020, he wins the race, and then the next year, everything goes tits up. Coincidence? Yeah, probably. But there's more! In 2021, Daniel Ricciardo wins the Italian Grand Prix after Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen had a little bit of a ding-dong. But we're not going to open that can of worms right now. Ricciardo wins the Italian Grand Prix. And then guess what happened? At the next year's Italian Grand Prix, he retires on lap 45 with an oil leak. So that means over the past 3 years, every time a driver has won at Monza, the next year, everything goes tits up. Coincidence? I think not. And guess who won the Italian Grand Prix last year? Max Verstappen. So there's no way Max Verstappen can win the Italian Grand Prix this weekend because of the Monza curse. He did win the Dutch Grand Prix, even though the race was sent into the fourth dimension twice. And Ferrari have revealed a special livery for Monza to commemorate their recent victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. 24 hours. That's almost as long as Charles Leclerc's pit stop at the Dutch Grand Prix. And I made the exact same joke this time last year. They unveiled a special livery to commemorate 100 years at Monza. 100 years? That's almost how long Carlos Sainz's pit stop took at the Dutch Grand Prix. The same joke 2 years in a row. Coincidence? I think not!